Can you hear me now? Yeah. Well, you guys can. Thanks.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I think Isaac can hear us.
Sorry. I did change some settings because I was recording a video and I must not have set them back. There's so many little settings in there. Yes, now. Okay, so just to repeat that one part really quick. You want to hear it again? Wasn't that exciting?
Yes.
If you did not do as well on the test as you thought, please let me know and I'll let you do some short IDs and I will give you some points back for that. Yes, the multiple choice are going to be hard. But one thing I'll tell you about this, and I didn't say this to you, so this will be new. It's amazing how much easier this gets. Once you get used to what I demand and what I ask for, it gets easier. In fact, you probably already noticed it was easier now than it was a month ago to get down material and think about it. I'm going slower because everything's taking longer, I'm sorry. But it gets significantly easier. Ask anybody who's taken the class. And also, we just were kind of thrown in the class for the first time, and that was hard. But that's also why I'm giving you more time and giving these opportunities to make some points back. So, the money supply, who's ever in charge controls the money supply. Who runs the country today? Creditors. The big financial institutions. They put up the money, they fund candidates, they pay for it, and what's up? You're leaving? Oh. Quick, quick. They fund the government, they pay. Have you seen how much money the four big banks that run almost all the financial institutions in the United States, do you see how much money they've made since COVID began? We're talking at least $3 trillion.
What big banks are those?
Citibank, Bank of the United States, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs. Yeah, we have in essence a monopoly. They run all the banks.
The top one.
But they have good customer service. At least Wells Fargo does.
Of course, if you're
Well, Wells Fargo does now because they got in a lot of trouble by stealing from people. But that's another story. But Wells Fargo, but that wasn't the people who actually work there work their tails off. They just don't believe. If you have a monopoly, you don't have to staff your things like customer service as much. So those people work butts off. I'll give you an example. Spectrum. The people who work there work their tails off. There's just not a lot of them. So we got through that. Whoever controls the government, and I gave you two states from yesterday. Massachusetts. Did they create deflation or inflation?
deflation.
Yeah. Rhode Island was the other state creating inflation. Which state allowed for more people to vote?
Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island. And so, that suffrage, to allow for more suffrage, that's going to be what the left wants, or liberal. Less suffrage, right or conservative. And it's like that to this day. It's like this to this day. I should add, this money supply thing really does decide your life. I mean, this is huge. And this is done by elected officials. This is policy. It's not the sun goes up and the value of money drops. These are decided by people to benefit certain people. And if you think you think that politics don't matter, and who's elected doesn't matter, and it doesn't affect you, you are being played. You're a sucker. And they love it. They love people who don't pay attention. Because then what can they do? Yeah. They can manipulate, control, do anything you want. The people who don't vote are being played. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're not smart. Of course they're smart. People are incredibly smart. But they're being played, manipulated by people like me. No. So that. And so we went through Shays Rebellion, right? We got through this, Western Massachusetts. So this was all from yesterday. just reviewing really quick, the farmers were in debt. Farmers are always in debt, right? Farmers are always in debt. These veterans, many of them veterans of the war, they would rebel, and they got another one of those militia joining the rebellion. How did they put it down? How did the wealthy in Massachusetts put it down?
Winter
Huh?
time. Created winter.
Winter helped. And where did they get the militia from?
Oh, urban areas.
Urban areas, and they paid for it themselves. The rich paid off poor people from cities to put down poor people from the countryside. But they had cannon, because they had the arsenals. So they could put down the rebellion. So that's got the rebellion, winter, Shay pardon. The wealthy were terrified. And who couldn't put down the rebellion? A rebellion within the borders of the United States, and what entity, what body was completely and totally helpless?
The central government.
Yeah, there's no central government. So this is where we quit yesterday. I just want to review this real fast. An amazing turn of events. Shays' rebellion is another one of those hinge moments. This would change everything about the history of the United States. Shays' rebellion. We have two big rebellions, 111 years apart. Bacon's rebellion, Shays' rebellion. We have another big rebellion that's going to be called, 100 years after this, called the Great Upheaval. That will change everything after the Civil War. So with that, the wealthy and elite totally panic. This cartoon about whether or not to go towards the ruin of the Articles or a new form of government is hilarious from 1787. I'm not sure what he's doing here, but it involves flatulence. So moving on. From 1787, their cartoons are, oh God, they're so funny. You have to see the ones about Martin Luther and the Reformation in the 16th century. So the big issue there, this is too much democracy. After the Revolutionary War, too many people felt they had power, like those farmers at Shays' Rebellion. They didn't see this democracy as the people having a voice. They saw it as mobocracy, and that's what they would call it. We're being ruled by the mob, the turbulent mob. And that should remind you a little bit of what John Adams said about the Boston Massacre. He was on the side of too much democracy, even though he was in London at this time. So the need was for a stronger central government. We got to do something to strengthen the government so this can't happen again, and put those who deserve to be in power on top. They would say over and over again, we need a government of a better sort, not you peasants. And we need as many barriers from the mob and the government, the ruling elite, as many barriers as possible. So these are the people that are going to write the Constitution of the United States, which is still in the government. Still the government. And they very consciously thought, we can't have the people believing they have too much influence. It's got to be the people and then the ruling elite on top. And when we go through the Constitution, you'll be surprised how many barriers. Some of you probably already know. So with that, they wanted something closer to an oligarchy, even though they didn't want an oligarchy. And that's governed by a few. But they set it up to be kind of a government by the few. Quick. So, they've already met a couple
Right,
different
so
times. This is even
sorry for
before
being a little bit late.
Shays'
I guess the internet
They
was
met
down
Mount
all over
Vernon,
the state of Montana.
Within
And
5
so
states sent people to Annapolis.
Nobody could
Their
broadcast.
big issue, interstate commerce. And I'll tell you a little bit about interstate commerce in just a second. So various elite,
And let me get my
lawyers,
email up here,
merchants,
just
and
so we can do
slaveholders
it.
came and met in
So it appeared like no one
Annapolis.
could broadcast anywhere in the country, and it's
I'm
working.
coming up. My sound.
And so, a little behind, still going to broadcast, and we'll go from there. We'll pick up with the Articles of Confederation, which I started on.
Wow.
Was that yesterday?
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Okay. Sound.
Somebody just started playing from yesterday. I think the mouse must have moved and I clicked the screen. Okay, the number were people who
loaned money to the U.S. government, and they want to make sure they get their money back, aka bondholders. And Alexander Hamilton was one of the main drivers. He's the guy who convinced George Washington to have the first meeting at his home and then to participate. Hamilton was terrified of the mob. Hamilton wanted a dictatorship. He wanted a financial banking elite to run the country. He's not the nice, the nice guy from the play who wants equality for everybody. That is not the real Alexander Hamilton. By the way, I like that State House. My favorite part about this picture? That guy. I'm sure we got to put someone there for scale. Okay, let's have a point. No. Okay, like my sound effects? That guy was there. So, in 1787, in Philadelphia, at Independence Hall, what would be called the Constitutional Convention. It was not yet the Constitutional Convention. 12 states sent people. Rhode Island didn't. Rhode Island would be the last state to ratify the Constitution. They were kind of stuck, though. They were very elite, and these were conservative. These were conservative, meaning they believed in a ruling elite. They were scared of democracy. They were scared of voters. They were obeying a law. The Articles of Confederation, the Confederacy, passed a law to strengthen the Articles. So that was their stated goal. And almost immediately, when they arrived at Independence Hall, they threw that out. By the way, that's a picture I took. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. This is last year. At Independence Hall. In fact, in October. Last year. And I was just about ready to go into this line to take my tour. And let me tell you something about it. It's shocking how small it is. Has anyone been there? It's really cool. It's awesome. That's a neat area. The whole place is like a big historical park. And it's Philadelphia. So you might see a mugging and really good food. What's even best if you're eating while a mugging is taking place in front. So you got like a dinner and a show. But, and don't tell anybody, but we got our tour, our time, and we got there early, and we were like 40 minutes before our tour was supposed to go, so we just kind of snuck into. Don't tell them, will you? You're going to hold this over me, aren't you? All right, let's talk about your grade. Okay, so. All right, so let's get back to the Constitutional Convention. This is inside, and you can go right to the edge. It's really small. Got it done?
Yeah.
And 4 sentences each for the short IDs?
Yep, and it's all submitted.
And submitted? Very good. It still just blows my mind. You think it's something that's monumental as the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. You kind of expect this big monumental room. It's just this little thing about the size of this classroom. Maybe even smaller. Go if you get a chance. The tour is worth it. I had a really good guide. He did there was some class from Philadelphia and he yelled at him. That was fun. So, they immediately decided that they're going to meet in secret. Almost immediately. Now, they have one reason that actually makes sense to meet in secret. They have another reason that doesn't. So, they almost immediately decided, we're going to change the government. We're going to throw it out. We're going to write a brand new thing called a Constitution. And a bunch of members went home. They were like, no, we're not going to do this. Our charge is to just change the Articles. In fact, almost the entire New York representative body went home. Alexander Hamilton, who was from New York, he wanted to stay. He had to go home. So he would just kind of pop in a few times, ask for a dictator, then pop out. And they claimed we're meeting in secret so special interests won't sway our point of view. We will be impartial. And that's what they claim. And yeah, that's a good goal. But they're special interests. Most of them are slaveholders. They're bondholders. They're very wealthy. Their special interest is themselves. Of course, if they saw, if we prosper, who else will prosper?
Yeah.
Everybody. By the way, that's what,
Breaking up.
huh? That's what everybody thinks. If I do well, we're all doing well, right? But the big thing is, they were scared about maybe they're going to be accused of treason. Think about a group of people getting together to change the government, throw out the government, to put in a new government to help themselves.
That's treason.
That's by definition is treason. That's why there's no notes. There's no minutes. There's only a few people's handwritten notes about the entire procedure. The best is James Madison. But his notes are biased. You know, he's writing it to his point of view. But so we have limited knowledge of this. Immediately, the issue of slavery came up. Nobody liked slavery, but they were profiting from it. Every state profited from it, even though some northern states were in the process of slowly getting rid of it, especially Pennsylvania. Southern states, it was still very important, even though they thought hopefully someday it was going to go. But they all knew one thing that was very important. Slavery will blow this whole thing up. They knew it. They knew it was a problem. They knew it was a problem in the Declaration of Independence, and that's why they purposely did not mention it. Jefferson wanted to blame the British for slavery. And they said, we just can't mention it, because you'll blow up our union. So they knew they can't mention it. And here's the thing. A republic can't survive with slavery, and they knew it. Because there cannot be freedom of speech if there's slavery. For anybody. Everybody has got to be repressed if there's a system of slavery. Now, there's lots of reasons why, but the number one reason is simple. If you are free, yet talk about something like slaves should be free, that might trigger a slave rebellion. So, by definition, slavery represses everybody. Next, what about the executive? The executive could have almost unlimited power, and this really scared them. So they avoided that one too. In fact, they did what all bodies like this do. Controversial issue? We'll worry about that tomorrow. And so they did hastily made compromises at the end. Speaking of that, where's my mouse? All of them, though, were committed to one idea. This will be nothing like a democracy. They want as limited voice for people as possible. And the vision of the United States for democracy is the social contract. Remember the social contract in the Declaration of Independence. Governments are created to protect rights. If governments infringe upon those rights, what must the people do?
Overthrow.
Change the government. Exactly right. Americans today, in fact, most of the world, think the social contract is democracy. And I think that's a pretty good definition. But it's not a true democracy where the citizens or the people decide. But we think we have the power ultimately. And this is a real problem. Slavery represses that. A strong executive could repress that. And they really don't want the mob to have power. The great unwashed masses. But they also knew the federal government has to be supreme. We can't have another Shays' rebellion. Now, of course, states will later on to this day, if they don't like something the federal government will do, they'll say, no, states are supreme. There will be a little war over this. There's going to be 3 major compromises then. So, 3 major compromises. So the first compromise is about representation. About representation. Representation in government, and there are 2 conflicting plans. The big state and the small state plan. The Virginia plan, Virginia was the most populous state. And so the big states coalesce around this. James Madison, who is considered the father of the Constitution, he would be the main author of this. By the way, did you see we had a record number of cases yesterday?
733.
Now, it appears as though it's a little bit of delayed counting, but still, that's pretty scary. And some people aren't coming in, seniors from taking the ACT. So, it's hitting us. Cross your fingers. Try it, everyone. Come on. Let's go. Both.
Find out if this is, yes.
No.
What about toes? Do toes count? Or
No.
For
That's
neck
crazy.
purposes.
sorry, then.
Huh? Oh, all right. That's pretty. So, like this, can you do it? And then- Come on, let's. Oh, you should. Now, shark. Come, do shark. Do shark.
I like using the first two.
No, no, no.
No, that's dollar.
Shark.
Same time.
Yeah, same time. Come on, people. See, shark. All right. So, I still want to have everyone doing that and somebody walk in.
We do shadow puppet theater.
Look, a rock. Okay.
James Madison.
So with that, so James Madison's the father of the Constitution. And Madison, he an elite, he plantation owner, and would be the smallest American president, at least so far. 5'3", maybe, 100 pounds.
Wow. That's like
He was very sickly when he was young, and back then it was just barely made it.
he's actually wearing stilts.
Huh?
He was actually wearing stilts.
Yeah, he was
He's
actually-
like 2 feet tall.
He wore them well. He wanted a bicameral legislature. Bicameral, that means 2 houses, thus the bi. And both of them would be apportioned by population. Now, you notice I put a line through that. That's because this never happened. But that's what he wanted. This would benefit big states, thus the big state plan. The bigger your state, the more members of the representative body, of the 2 representative bodies from your state. There'd be an upper and a lower house. Only one the voters would have any voice on, the lower house. The lower house would be voted on by the voters. Now, every state had different rules for voting. Most states, you had to have what to vote? Property or money, yes, in some way. And eventually they'd say, oh, pay taxes. Some states allowed for anybody who paid, anybody who had property. So women could vote in a lot of states. In some states, only white men. Women would lose that vote. We're coming to that. And some would allow for people who were not white to vote. Some wouldn't. Some, only a very narrow group of very big white property owners, male property owners. Every state has different rules. Every state has different rules today. Every single state. There's no set rule for voting. To this day. There's no set rules. There's not even a right to vote in this country. And so they don't even have to count your votes. Every state has different rules. Which is, we're very unique in that. And unique is saying it's troubling. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm excused at 11 across country. Can I go?
Huh? Yeah. Oh, homework. I'm gonna give you, well, you just listen. I posted it up on Teams. I thought I'd set it within the voice. Okay, my fault. Federalist number 10, which is the second to last page of that Revolutionary War package, is the last thing. Federalist number 10, please read that, and there are 3 questions, answer on a separate sheet. But it is posted on Teams. And then, I ran out of time, so I didn't give you that Revolutionary War map. I've decided, I kind of want you to do it. So I'll give you extra credit for if you get it to me by Monday. It's the last page on it. Does everyone hear that? The last page of the map by Monday. Okay.
So the questions Monday, correct? Too.
Yeah, questions by Monday too. And thank you for saying so, Alex. I totally forgot. And I did reach cross country and I forgot about it. And like I told you, I'm getting up there. I'm getting old. So, originally he wanted the executive to be chosen by the House. to be chosen by the House. You notice the lines through there? Yeah, that never happened. And so what he wanted was basically a whole system of the very elite picking. Now, the small state plan, New Jersey. New Jersey was much closer to what they're supposed to do. A unicameral legislature. They just have an executive. That's it. That's basically just a strengthening of the articles, but it would be equal by state. So you see a big problem here. Everybody knew if it's equal per state, it hurts big states. By population, small states. And these small states are thinking, we don't want to lose power. And that's where we get the compromise. With the very clever name, Great Compromise.
It was destined for greatness.
It's also called the Connecticut Plan.
No.
Okay, can I switch real quick? We got it? We good? The Great Compromise. It's Roger Sherman, one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence. He'd be the main author of this. And, by the way, it was a big deal. Washington was the guy who beat the gavel, the president of the convention. It gave him credibility. Ben Franklin was there nearing the end. Thomas Jefferson was in France. So, bicameral. But here's the big difference. The House of Representatives, aka the lower house, would be by population. The bigger your state, the more members. Every state has to have at least one. How many does Montana have?
Two.
One. When I was your age, you had two.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Lost it in 1990.
That sucks. Why?
If they would have done a normal census, but the Trump administration is trying desperately to stop the census early, we might have had enough to get one more. But it almost certainly won't happen. Yeah, they're trying not to count certain people who live here. They went to court. The administration is ignoring the court right now. It's going to go to the Supreme Court. Yeah, Montana probably won't get it. It was a slight chance anyways. No chance now. How many does California have, by the way?
58.
Close. 53.
Yeah.
2-year terms decided by voters, but every state has different rules. So this is mostly the elite choosing the elite. The voters are the elite. And tax bills start there. They're also called appropriations bills. The power of the purse. And this comes from the British Commons. What about the Senate? How many senators per state? Two per state. That's the compromise. So that's the New Jersey plan. We have per state, the Virginia plan, the House. This really favors small states. You know, Montana has a little bit over 1 million people, yet we have the same numbers as California.
Yeah.
So Montana has a huge influence.
Montana supremacy.
Yeah. And state assemblies would choose them. By the way, you notice a line through there. In 1913, the Constitution was amended to allow voters. The 17th Amendment. Conservatives to this day want to get rid of it. Every once in a while they'll talk about it. It won't happen, but it's just the view towards voting. 6-year term. How many terms can they serve? It's unlimited. And the executive. I'll get to the powers of the executive later, but they did not. Okay, Madison wanted it by the House, but this would hurt small states and slave states. So they made a compromise to protect small states and slave states. Electors. 4-year term. Wait, there's one more thing. I know the bell's not ready to ring, but one more thing. And the electors are chosen by state assemblies. Who chooses electors today? State assemblies. That is the law to this day. So, how many terms can a president serve?
Unlimited.
Unlimited at first.
And then FDR.
After World War II, they amended. I just wanted to get this last thing. That's why I told you. All right. If you had a question about the police, drop me a note or ask me, and I'll send you something for the short IDs. Everyone got Federalist number 10. I'm sorry I forgot to mention that. And I'm not. I will.
I will show you an example of short IDs, but just, I think one more person have to take it, then we'll do it.
Dude, it's so stupid. I love
I thought people did well.
Both matters.
Most of the A's and B's. Some of you had a 30 or 40 point approval.
Yeah, like the left
Improvement.
all like 3 cents when like they couldn't.
So